Sawadee-kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and we're in Chapter 4 of our book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This chapter is titled The Four Noble Truths, Establishing Right View. This is where in one simple discourse, one simple class, 4 statements, you're going to be able to understand the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. This is where you can have a real breakthrough to understanding what's causing these discontent feelings in the mind, like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, and then how to actually eliminate them. So by understanding the Four Noble Truths, you can have this breakthrough. And this is the very first teaching of the Buddha. So if you were going to be interested in understanding anything that the Buddha ever has had to say, you would need to understand the Four Noble Truths. That's the real starting point of the path to enlightenment. If you were going to take a hike and you're going to take a journey somewhere on this hiking trail, there's usually a trail marker at the very beginning of the trail, helping you to understand what the trail is going to be. You might say, go off on the trail, go this way, go that way, go down this hill, cross this stream, and it circles back to the parking lot. Well, the Four Noble Truths is the trail marker to the path to enlightenment. This is what's going to help you to be able to understand your journey going forward. So you would need to establish right view to even really get started with the teachings. So if you're joining for the first time or you've been joining regularly, welcome to all of you guys. This is an excellent day to be in class because it really is the very beginning of the path to enlightenment, to understand the Four Noble Truths. The way that we start our class is we start with a meditation. So I'll guide you guys in meditation by starting with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. Then there'll be a period of time where I'm going to come in and I'm going to be guiding you during the meditation. Then we're going to just be meditating together. There'll be a period of time where it's just quiet. And then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. If you guys are interested in learning these chants, starting this Wednesday, I'm going to start a 4-part series where I'm going to be teaching Buddhist chanting and how to actually chant and what the purpose of it is and the benefits and all these kinds of things. But for now, if you'd like to chant along, you're welcome to. These chants are on our website. If you go to buddhadailywisdom.com and click on the free books link, you will see down towards the bottom, you will see the daily chanting sheet. And if you don't know these chants, it's okay, because on Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching you how to actually do the chanting. And then from that point forward, you'll be able to join in with the chanting. So if you'd like to take a position, either seated, lying, standing, there is a walking position as well, but it doesn't usually work out well for online learning. I'll start us off with the chants, and then I'll come back in with the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Otang Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti pisu Bhagava Arahang งสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตูอนุเตโรปุริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in naturally through the nose, developing a nice, nitral, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of the air moving over the skin and into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. หังสัมมาสัมพุทโธภะคะวาพุทธังภะคะวันตังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตภะคะวะตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโอโตภะคะวะติ All right, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys, whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly. Welcome to our class today. As I was mentioning, this is our group learning program where each Sunday I go chapter by chapter in our book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment, helping you guys to understand the foundational teachings that you need to be able to get to enlightenment. You can actually download this book from our website for free. You can take it and go print it if you'd like. You can order printed versions on Amazon. And here at the temple in Chiang Mai, you can actually get access to it as well through just reimbursing us for the printing cost. We're in chapter 4 today, which is titled The Four Noble Truths, Establishing Right View. This is where you can have a real breakthrough to understanding what is causing your mind to be angry, sad, frustrated, and all these other discontent feelings, so that then you can actually learn how to eliminate them. I'm going to walk you through in a way that you can understand what the Buddha taught through learning, examining, and investigating his teachings, through reflecting on them to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you can actually practice the teachings, integrating them into your life and actually training your mind. There's nothing in the teachings that I share with you that should be believed. You're not interested in believing the teachings whatsoever. There's no way to get to enlightenment through belief, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. Somebody either convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. You don't know what's actually true. You haven't cultivated wisdom. In order to be able to get to enlightenment, you need to be able to cultivate wisdom and training the mind. We talked about enlightenment last week, where the whole entire chapter 3 is all about what is enlightenment. Just as a little bit of a recap of that, what enlightenment is a mental state where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind no longer experiences any discontent feelings. So that means the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind. And this occurs through training of the mind, uprooting certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. You'll notice that by the time you get to enlightenment, the mind is focused, it's concentrated. You have clarity of mind and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. They'll be at ease, that you won't have bitterness and hostility and harshness in your relationships anymore. So you'll have better and more harmonious relationships. So these are the results of what you can experience when you get to enlightenment. You can even get to the point where you don't even experience a bad mood anymore because the causes and conditions that are producing that have been uprooted. So what you're looking to do on the path to enlightenment is to cultivate wisdom. This is what the mind needs to be able to then train it. In the wisdom that we're talking about, it's not just an intellectual pursuit. There's a certain amount of intellectual knowledge that you need in order to be able to make your way to enlightenment, but it's not just intellectual. There is examination and investigation, the learning of the teachings, but there's that reflection where you independently verify whether what you're being taught and what you're learning is either true or false. And I'm going to help you see how to do that today. And then you need to practice these teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And what you're doing here is you're awakening to the wisdom of the natural laws of existence. What you're experiencing when the mind's angry and sad and frustrated, this is the mind living in a world that it doesn't understand. The Buddha didn't teach you how the world should be. He's not doing that through rites or rituals, ceremonies of worship, through guilt, shame, and fear, through rules or commandments. He's not explaining to you the way the world should be. What he's doing is he's explaining to you the way the world is. And when you understand the way the world is, you can navigate that world more peacefully. Because these natural laws of existence, they're affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. And this is why the Buddha's teachings are timeless, that what he taught 2,500 years ago is just as applicable today as it was 2,500 years ago, because he's describing these natural laws. And when you lack wisdom of a natural law, you're going to struggle and you're going to have difficulties. This is why we all struggled growing up with the natural law of gravity, because we didn't have the wisdom of this natural law. When we were 2 years old, 3 years old, 6 years old, 8 years old, we had a lot of trouble with this natural law of gravity. We kept falling down, hitting our head, busting open our elbows, busting open our knees, breaking toys, and all these kinds of things because we didn't understand this natural law. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of this natural law. And now, having fully awoke to this wisdom, we can navigate the world more peacefully. Now we're able to climb ladders, ride bicycles, ride motorcycles and motorbikes, get on airplanes and travel all over the world because we've awoke to that natural law. We learned to tie our shoes tighter, to look at the surface of the sidewalks as we're walking, to not be so giddy and bouncing around like a little kid anymore. This is all wisdom that we have because we awoke to this natural law of gravity. We didn't believe in the natural law of gravity. We can actually see it for ourselves. When we take something and we drop it, we can see, yes, that is the natural law of gravity. And we understand that now, right? Because we've independently verified it for ourselves. So this is what you're going to need to do with all the teachings of the Buddha. Because when your mind's angry and stressed and having anxiety and frustration, this is the mind lacking wisdom about the world around you. The mind hasn't been trained to awaken to the wisdom of these natural laws. So I'm going to walk you through the Four Noble Truths today. First, discussing the three universal truths in a way that you can learn, you can reflect, independently verify, and you can practice. And it's important not to believe what I'm sharing with you. So as we go during our class, I'm going to be pausing at different times, opening up to questions, so that if there's something that you don't understand, you can ask questions. Whether you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can ask questions by putting that into the comment section. And when I get to the question period, I'll be able to see your question. Or if you're in Zoom, you have the added functionality of electronically raising your hand, and then you can unmute your microphone and everyone will be able to hear you and you'll be able to ask your question that way. So if you look in Zoom, you'll see a way to electronically raise your hand. One of the things that the Buddha teaches you in relationship to his teachings is he teaches you to listen to his teachings with eager ears. Whereas if you're just kick back and relax, sure, relax, right? But if you're, kind of off wandering here and there and everywhere, maybe, surfing on your phone or surfing on the web, that's your choice if you would like to do that. but you're not going to be able to penetrate into the teachings to really deeply understand what he's teaching you. He teaches you to listen with eager ears, actively listening to understand his teachings. So if you'd like to do that today, you'll be able to more easily understand the teachings. And then as you're understanding them, you'll be able to reflect on them, to independently verify them. And then as you integrate these teachings into your day-to-day life, that's where you're going to actually see the real results of his teachings. Because as you learn these Four Noble Truths, you can establish right view. And you'll understand what that means by the end of our class today, what it means to establish right view. So in order to explain to you the Four Noble Truths, I need to first explain to you the three universal truths. We refer to these as truths because the Buddha knew that they were true. I know that they're true. Other people know that they're true as well. But in order for you to get the benefit, this is where you need to know that they're true. So I'm going to walk you through in a way that you can learn, reflect, and practice to be able to awaken to this wisdom of what the Buddha is explaining to you in the way that the world is. So this first universal truth is called the universal truth of impermanence. This is where you're understanding how the world is. That what the Buddha is describing in the universal truth of impermanence is that everything around you is impermanent. There's something called conditioned objects. These conditioned objects arise, they change, and then they fade away. Anything that you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the physical body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, these are all conditioned objects. They arise, they change, and they fade away. They are impermanent. So everything around you is impermanent. There are things called unconditioned objects. They don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. They are permanent. This is enlightenment itself. It's an unconditioned object that by removing the causes and conditions from the mind that are producing the discontent feelings, you can actually get to this point where the peace and the joy in the enlightened mind is permanent. It's a permanent mental state. In the natural laws themselves, they are permanent as well. This is why what the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago is just as applicable today as it was back then, because these universal truths and all the other natural laws, they haven't changed since then, because he's describing to you these natural laws. They're unconditioned. They haven't changed. But everything that you can see, hear, smell, taste, things that come in contact with the body, and anything that goes through the mind, this is all conditioned objects. They will arise, they will change, and they will fade away. Okay, they're constantly changing. They are impermanent. So this is a little bit of the intellectual learning on the universal truth of impermanence. It only takes about 3 minutes for me to teach it to you intellectually. But now you're not interested in believing this. So now you start reflecting on it to try to independently verify whether it's true or it's false. So what I suggest that you do is you start with something that you're very familiar with, like this human body. You're familiar with this. So you can ask yourself, is this body permanent, meaning that it never changes, or is this body impermanent, right? And it means it's constantly changing. So if you ask yourself that question, what you probably come back with is that the body is impermanent. It's constantly changing. From the time of conception, when the egg and sperm came together, this body's constantly changing. We have teeth that grow in, that's change, but then they fall out, that's change. The new ones grow in, that's change, and then we get cavities, that's change. Our hair grows, that's change, and then when we cut it off, then it grows again, right? This is constant change. We get wrinkles and moles and gray hair, and we start losing our hair. We experience these things. We get a little extra fat here or there. This is all change to the physical body. So you can see that this physical body is impermanent. But you don't just stop there. You would like to look around the world and see if you can find something that's permanent. So you can ask yourself, are your relationships permanent? Meaning the people that are in your life, are those the exact same people that have been in your life your entire life? Or are your relationships impermanent? Meaning people have been coming and going in and out of your life throughout your life. So are your relationships permanent or are they impermanent? Right? You should be coming back with, yeah, they're impermanent. People are coming and going in and out of your life all the time. Then ask yourself about your bank account. Is your bank account permanent or is it impermanent? right? Your bank account's most likely impermanent as far as I know. It goes up and down and up and down. Some people's goes up, up, up. It goes down, down, down. I haven't seen any bank account that's permanent, right? What about the weather? Is that permanent or impermanent? Right? You can see the sun and then you see it rains. That's impermanence. So we could go on and on and on and on. And if this is what you need to do in order to be able to see the truth and cultivate wisdom, you should do that. Look around the world. Go on a scavenger hunt. Try to find something that you can see, hear, smell, taste, that comes in contact with the body or that goes through the mind that is permanent. And if you can find something, then you've disproven this and it's not an actual universal truth. But what you're going to come back with, if you go out and do this work, because it's such an important building block to understand the three universal truths in order to be able to understand the Four Noble Truths, what you'll come back with is that everything around you is constantly changing. It is impermanent. Okay, so this is important understanding to have as we're going to move into the Four Noble Truths here in a little bit. And that's where you're going to be able to have a real breakthrough. Then there's the universal truth of discontentedness. This is a universal truth that's explaining the unenlightened mind. And some people refer to this as suffering. If you've studied the teachings of the Buddha in other places, you might have heard people translating this as suffering. I'm going to explain to you what this universal truth is, and then I'll circle back and help you to understand why I don't use the word suffering here. In the original text, which is called the Pali Canon, which is in the Pali language, the word that is being used is dukkha. This word dukkha translates as discontent, discontented, or discontentedness. This is explaining conditioned feelings, how the unenlightened mind experiences a feeling based on a certain condition. And those feelings that it experiences are pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. This is describing the full spectrum of feelings and emotions that an individual experiences in the unenlightened state. There's pleasant feelings, happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. These are conditioned feelings that based on some condition, you will then be happy. So you look outside, you see it's sunny outside, you're so happy. That's a conditioned feeling. Your bank account balance is a certain level, you look at it and you get so happy, that's a conditioned feeling. Then there's painful feelings like sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. These are very painful for the mind to experience. And these are also based on some condition. Based on some condition, the mind's going to experience these painful feelings. Then there's neither painful nor pleasant. And for me, I put boredom and loneliness here, but some people tell me that's very painful for them. So if you'd like to put that in the painful category, you could. But shyness is a good example of this, neither painful nor pleasant, where it's not painful, it's not pleasant, it's neither painful nor pleasant. Or say you were on public transportation and somebody came and sat really, really close to you and you didn't know this person and your body was touching their body. You might say that it's not painful, it's not pleasant, it's neither painful nor pleasant. The mind is kind of uncomfortable in this situation. And that's the neither painful nor pleasant feelings. So this is what the Buddha is describing, is that the unenlightened mind is experiencing conditioned feelings. And you're going to understand why this is when we get to the Four Noble Truths. But essentially what an unenlightened mind is doing is you might come out in the morning and you see that it's sunny outside and you get so happy and so excited. You've been wanting to go on this hike through this hiking trail and you are planning to call up your friends and let them know that, hey, today's the day that we're going to go on this hiking trail. Please come to this event. We're going to go out and do some hiking. And now you go all so happy to the shower and to taking a shower and you're just thinking about the hike and how much fun it's going to be. And you just can't wait to get out the door to go on this hike. You come out of the shower and you see that it's raining and now you're frustrated and now you're agitated and you're annoyed. This is because if you base your inner feelings on the condition of the sun, that sun is not permanent. So therefore, your happiness is not permanent either. Your mind's going to move to the sadness or the anger or the frustration, because when that sun changes, your happiness is going to change. It's not going to be happiness anymore. It's going to be sadness or frustration. So as long as you're having conditional happiness, you will also experience sadness, anger, frustration, and all these other painful feelings. So you need to be able to see the conditioned pleasant feelings as just as much a part of the problem as the painful ones. The conditioned pleasant feelings are, if this condition is met and this condition is met and this condition is met and this condition is met, then I will be happy, right? Well, what you would like to get to with enlightenment is where your mind is beyond this, where you're experiencing unconditioned happiness or unconditioned joy, where an enlightened being, when they wake up in the morning, they see that it's sunny outside. They were already happy before they even saw the sun. Then when they went and took the shower and they came out and they see it's raining, they didn't base their happiness on the sun. So therefore, now when they see it's raining, it's like, all right, well, I guess I'm not going hiking. Maybe I'll stay home and read a book, or maybe I'll go to the mall, watch a movie. Maybe I'll invite my friends over. We'll cook dinner. We'll have a good time. You'll just do something else because you understand that the sun is not permanent and you didn't base your happiness on the sun. So therefore, your happiness is unconditioned, that there's no condition that is causing that happiness. So therefore, the mind is just always happy. So with conditional happiness, it's ultimately unsatisfying because it's temporary. This is why you'll get really excited and really happy about something, but then the next thing you know, your mind's experiencing anger, sadness, or frustration, or some other discontent feeling. So as long as your mind is having conditioned feelings, you're not going to be able to experience the unconditioned mental qualities of the happiness and the joy and the peace and the calm that the mind can experience. So this is a little bit on the universal truth of discontentedness, where the Buddha is explaining the unenlightened mind that it experiences these three feelings of pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neither painful nor pleasant. And now what you do is you try to independently verify it because you know that your mind is unenlightened and you've been experiencing these feelings, all these and probably others throughout your life. So now what you do is you look throughout your life and all the different feelings that you experience and ask yourself, does this describe that? Do you experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant? Are there any feelings that don't fit into one of these three categories? And if you feel like that's the case, when we get to the question period, you can let me know and we can talk about it. So this is the Buddha explaining these conditioned feelings and what the unenlightened mind is experiencing. This is the actual problem with the unenlightened mind, that it keeps experiencing these conditioned feelings. It goes up and down and up and down and up and down. It's shaken up, it's unsteady, it's uncalm. Now, some people refer to this as suffering. And if that's what you've been taught in the past, I would encourage you to use discontent, discontented, or discontentedness, because the word suffering explains the painful feelings really, really well. When you're sad or angry or frustrated or some other discontent feeling that's painful, like guilt or shame or fear, you would probably say that you're suffering in that situation. But if you got so excited because your mom's coming to visit you in your new apartment, or you got a raise at work and you're so elated and thrilled because you got a promotion, you probably wouldn't say you were suffering in that situation. Or when that person you don't know comes and sits really close to you on public transportation and your body's touching their body, you probably wouldn't say that you were suffering in that situation. So the word suffering explains the painful feelings really, really well, but it doesn't explain the pleasant feelings and the neither painful nor pleasant. So you would be missing 66% of the teachings of the Buddha if you continue to use the word suffering. Instead, if you use this word discontent, discontented, or discontentedness, you can explain the full spectrum of emotions and feelings that the unenlightened mind experiences. If you're missing 66% of a teacher's teachings, how could you ever get to the goal of enlightenment? So this is why I encourage you to think about this universal truth in this way, because it fully represents what the Buddha was actually teaching. Then there's the universal truth of non-self. This is actually a solution to one of the problems that the Buddha discovers in the mind. The Buddha discovers 10 individual pollutions or taints or defilements. And then he figured out the tools and techniques of how to uproot them out of the mind. And that's how you actually get to enlightenment. These are referred to as the 10 fetters. We talked about these last week in chapter 3. The 10 fetters are 10 individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered. And then all of his teachings are guiding you of how to eliminate them from the mind. And as you eliminate them, that's where the peace and the joy is gradually coming into the mind more and more, because you're getting rid of these pollutions. The reason why they're referred to as fetters is because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were a criminal or a prisoner, they would attach a fetter around your ankle. What a fetter is it's a shackle and a chain and a ball that keeps you confined to a certain area. And they would just turn you out into a field, and now people would just be kind of hanging out in this field, and it would keep them confined there. Where today we put prisoners in a jail cell or a prison cell or something like this. So when the Buddha discovers these 10 fetters, he refers to them as fetters, because these pollutions or these fetters are keeping your mind trapped in this unenlightened state, continuing to experience the discontent feelings over and over and over again. So this universal truth of non-self helps you to understand what you need to do in order to eliminate the very first fetter. The very first fetter is called personal existence view. I'm going to explain this to you a little bit so you can understand what it is, and then I'm going to explain to you the universal truth of non-self so you understand that it's the solution to this. What the first fetter is personal existence view. It describes how the unenlightened mind is confused, that it lacks wisdom, it has misunderstanding and misperceptions. It has a lack of wisdom, that it clings and holds on to this body, and it clings and holds on to the mind, thinking that this is who you are as a person. And now, when it's clinging to your self-image and your self-identity, you'll experience discontentedness because of this. So for example, if you're clinging to this physical body, to this self-image, thinking that this is who you are, when you're in a social situation and you spill chocolate ice cream or spaghetti sauce on your clothing, you'll be embarrassed because of that. Because the mind wants to be perceived by others in a certain way. This is the mind clinging to a certain self-image. Or maybe if you get a wrinkle or a mole or a pimple or a gray hair, or you start losing your hair, or you get a little extra fat here or there. If you're clinging to this self-image, when you are out in the world, you'll experience the difficulties and struggles because of that. Or you might actually be in the mirror, looking in the mirror, trying to get every little hair in exactly the right spot. Or you might have put on some clothes and stood in front of the mirror and be like, no, that's not how I want to look today. I want these other clothes. And you might have had different jewelry and different combinations of things like this, that you were trying to get the perfect way that you would like this body to be perceived by others, because the mind's clinging to this self-image, wanting others to perceive you in a certain way, thinking that this body is who you are as a person. Or the mind might be clinging to a certain self-identity. A self-identity are things like your nationality, your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, maybe your job or occupation. These are all things that the mind can cling to as your identity of who you think you are as a person. So for example, you might cling to, I am American, or I am Canadian, or I am Brazilian, or I am Mexican, or I am a Brit, or I am an Aussie, right? All this I am. And not just about your nationality or your culture, but even your job or occupation. It could be, I am a police officer, or I am a lawyer, or I am a doctor. You can even cling to, I am a boyfriend, or I am a girlfriend, I am a husband, or I'm a wife. So if you're in a relationship with somebody and your mind thinks, I am a boyfriend, I am a girlfriend. Now when you guys get out of the relationship and the relationship's over, and now the mind is identifying with, I am a boyfriend, or I am a girlfriend. But now you're actually single, and the mind doesn't identify that way. So one of the things that you might have decided to do is try to hurry up and get right back into another relationship again, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. Because when your mind was identifying with, I am a boyfriend, I am a girlfriend, but yet you're single, it felt uncomfortable for you. And the mind thought the best way to solve this is to hurry up and get right back into another relationship, and somehow that's going to solve the problem. But that doesn't solve the problem, because it just allows the mind to continue to cling to this personal existence view. Or if you've ever done a particular job or occupation and you've identified yourself through this job, like I am a police officer. And now 10, 15 years into your career, maybe you get injured, or maybe you get laid off or fired, or maybe you have to retire for some reason. Now, when your mind's identifying this way as I am a police officer, but instead you're actually a taxi driver now, well, now the mind is having a lot of difficulties here. It's really struggling because it sees itself as I am a police officer. It's defining who you are through your job or occupation. So your mind can cling to any number of these different things as your identity and who you think you are as a person. So now if you cling to I am American and you're at a restaurant and 2 tables over, somebody's like, all Americans are lovely and kind and wonderful and friendly and loving. I've never heard this before, but maybe somebody might say this someday, right? And you're at a restaurant and you're hearing that and you identify with I am American, you might get so excited and so happy because they're talking about you. But now 2 tables over, you hear people degrading and disparaging the people of the country that you come from. And your mind has adopted this identity of I am American, but now they're disparaging American people. Well, if your mind is holding on to that identity, you'll feel frustrated, you'll feel angry, you might even be ready to fight. But you can get liberated from this, where you can realize that this body was born on a land that is currently referred to as America, but that doesn't mean your mind has to adopt the identity of I am American, right? Because that land, that dirt, that earth that this body was born on, it hasn't always been America and it won't always be America. And there's no need for the mind to adopt this identity. But all through our life, we've been taught that this is what we should do. We have national anthems, we have flags, we have sports teams, we have all this conditioning that is telling us that we need to adopt this identity. And sometimes people come to places like Thailand looking for themselves. They want to find themselves. They might be at home in their home country and they might think, I don't even know who I am anymore. I need to go find myself. I need to find my true self. And they might come to a place like Thailand or other places around the world to find themselves. But they won't find themselves here in Thailand, because what the Buddha is teaching you as part of the universal truth of non-self is that there is no self. It doesn't exist. But as long as the mind keeps trying to cling to a self, like a self-image or a self-identity, your mind will struggle in these situations. So people might come to Thailand and they'll find a new job, a new occupation, new friends, things like this, new hobbies and activities, but none of those things are you. And as soon as you allow your mind to cling to it and you think that this is you, as soon as that changes, and it will change because the universal truth of impermanence, now the mind will struggle. So someone can come to Thailand, they can find new friends, a new job, new hobbies, new activities, and now they go back home and they say, I found myself, I knew who I am again. But then 5 years later, they're right back into the same problem because their mind was clinging to all of that stuff. Now all of that stuff changed and they're right back into the same problem again. So the universal truth of non-self is helping you to understand that you need to eliminate this clinging to thinking that this body is you or this mind is you, because none of this is actually you. So what I will do here is I'll help you to understand how to independently verify this universal truth of non-self. Some people understand what I'm teaching here right from the beginning. Other times it takes people sometimes a year to keep revisiting this over and over before they fully understand, because we spend so much time adopting this view that this is who you are. Like, for example, all of us were given labels at birth. My label was David, right? And we might adopt this identity around this label of David. So we've been taught all through our life to adopt this identity. So when someone starts explaining this, sometimes people don't understand it right away. And if that's the case, it's okay. Because when we get to chapter 16, that's where we're going to really be discussing it in a lot more detail, so that you can understand that this body is in you and this mind is in you. And then I'm going to actually be teaching you tools and techniques of how to proactively train the mind to do what we call realized non-self, where you can realize that this body is not you and this mind is not you. There is a body and there is a mind, and it's come together for this existence. And we might refer to that as a person or a human being, but you don't need to identify with this as who you are. Here's how you can independently verify that there is no self. Think about yourself when you were a child, your teenage years, early adulthood, and then now. Think about your character, your personality, how you viewed yourself. Has it been constantly the same throughout your entire life? Or has the images and ideas of who you think you are as a person been constantly changing throughout those phases? Your childhood, teenage years, early adulthood, and then now, right? Probably what you're going to say is that, yeah, the image of how you think of yourself has been constantly changing over that period of time. Here's some more ways. If your arm was amputated and you only have one hand and one arm, are you less of a person? Most of the time people come back and say, no, I'm not less of a person. And this is where you can see that your mind intellectually knows that this body is not you, because otherwise you would answer that question differently. If this body is truly you and who you are as a person, when your arm is amputated, you only have one hand and one arm, you say, yes, I'm less of a person because there's less body, so therefore I'm less of a person. But intellectually, you can understand that this body isn't you. But the mind's confusion, the misunderstanding, the lack of wisdom, when you're in a situation where somebody says, wow, you are so beautiful, you are so handsome, that shirt really brings out the colors of your eyes. You get so proud, maybe. You get all these pleasant feelings because they're commenting about this body. But then when somebody says something negative and degrading about the clothes that you're wearing and how this body looks, now you might be angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling. And that's because of the mind's personal existence view, that confusion, that pollution, that misunderstanding that the mind has that this body is you or this mind is you. And here's a third way that you can independently verify this. Sometimes I ask students, point to yourself. Where are you? So point to yourself. Where are you? Some people point to the chest. Some people point to the head, right? If you're pointing to the chest, look at what you're pointing to. You need to look at what you're literally pointing to. And if I was pointing to my chest, what I'm pointing to is a shirt. Okay? So ask yourself, is that who you are? That shirt that you're wearing, is that who you are? Like if I took off this shirt and I held it up by my hand and I pointed to it, is that who I am? Am I this shirt? That shirt that you're wearing, is that who you are? The answer is no, that's not you. Okay, so throw away the shirt. Where are you? And somebody might point. And now they're pointing to skin. So you would ask yourself, is this skin you? Is that who you are? If you ripped off the skin and you held it up, is that who you are? This skin, that skin that you've got, is that you? And the answer is no, that's not you. So okay, let's throw that away. Where are you? Someone might point again. Well, what you're pointing to is muscle tissue, bones, organs, fluids, things like this. None of those bits and pieces and parts are you. But the mind's going to cling to these things thinking that it is you. So this is where the mind really struggles. The Buddha is teaching you that there is no self, that there is no self to be found anywhere. There is no you there. But the mind's going to keep trying to grasp onto something and try to find something that is you. The Buddha's not saying that you don't exist. There is a being in existence. There's a body there and there's a mind there, and they've come together for this existence. The Buddha's just teaching you that as soon as you cling to any of this, then you're setting yourself up. You're going to sabotage yourself because now you're going to end up experiencing discontentedness. So we might go around the world saying things like, I have a headache, or I am thirsty, or I am hungry. Well, true reality isn't that I am hungry because there's no I here. True reality is that the body needs food. It's not that I have a headache. It's that the head hurts. That's what's truly going on, right? So whenever we have that I am in there, it's not really representing true reality. So ultimately what you'll need to be able to do in order to get to the peace and the joy is realize non-self. Because as long as you hold on to this body or this mind as who you think you are, then your mind's going to get shaken up. When you hear agreeable things, you'll get happy and excited. When you hear disagreeable things, you'll get frustrated and agitated and annoyed. So I'm going to pause here and see what questions you guys have about the three universal truths before we move on to make sure that you guys understand this. You can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom through the comment section, or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like. So let me know if you guys have any questions here. Okay, it looks like Ted or Kristen has a question. Go ahead, guys.
Sorry to go back. In regards to meditation, independently verifying, but I seem to be, I seem to have a little faith, or sometimes doubt, that I'm getting to where I need to go, or what am I getting from meditation? There's nothing that seems tangible at times from doing this. So it's almost like I'm blindly or on faith going into this and practicing. I don't know. I'll probably answer my own question, but like to get somewhere or to receive this, everlasting peace of mind, or, fill in the blank. But I do feel it in areas of my life, for sure. But I'm still plugging along. Like the more practice, the deeper this will be, and that seems almost like having faith in something that I haven't been able to verify as of yet. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that was my comment, I guess.
Sure. Let me get to that after I explain the Four Noble Truths, because it'll make a whole lot more sense than Ted. I'll circle back and be sure I answer this question for you. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions on the three universal truths, and then I'll help you guys from there. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. All right, so one more building block before we talk about the Four Noble Truths to be able to have this breakthrough, and that is the understanding of craving, desire, attachment. This mental longing for something with a strong eagerness, where the mind is pulling in the direction for the objects of its affection. These are like wants and expectations. This is the mind thinking that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it and chases it. The mind is looking external for some happiness or some excitement or some thrill or some satisfaction or for some fulfillment. So the mind might chase and chase and chase and chase. The mind thinks when it's in the mall and it's walking through the mall and it sees that brand new pair of shoes, it's like, oh, brand new pair of shoes. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, I can't wait to get those onto my feet. Oh, this is going to be so great. This is going to make everything better. Or it might be a video game or jewelry or a new phone. Or it might be, oh, I know what I need, a new job. That's going to make everything better. Oh, more money. How about more money? That'll do it. Oh, a new car. That's what I need, a new car. And the mind just chases and chases and chases and chases after these things. So you need to make sure you understand what a craving, desire, attachment is. It's not the object itself. It's not the car. It's not the shoes. It's not the jewelry. What the craving, desire, attachment is inside the mind, where the mind is longing and yearning for this thing. That's what the craving, desire, attachment is. So you need to be able to understand these wants and expectations, the mind longing and yearning, looking external for some satisfaction. So now I'm going to explain to you the Four Noble Truths, helping you to be able to understand all these things that we just talked about, but now to be able to have this breakthrough to understanding what is the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. So the first noble truth is explaining the problem. Everyone that is unenlightened will experience discontentedness. This is the problem, the conditioned feelings, the mind going up and down and up and down and up and down. It's only a matter of time that when the mind gets so happy and excited about something, that then the painful feelings are waiting for you right around the corner. The anger, the sadness, and the frustration. This is the problem in the mind. Because as long as the mind is shaken up and unsteady and uncalm, you're not able to make wise decisions in your day-to-day life. So even that excitement, if you've ever been so excited that you like fell down or tripped and fell, you can see that your mind wasn't stable in that situation. So you would like to understand that this is the problem, those conditioned feelings. Always remembering that an enlightened mind is beyond this, where there's just always joy and there's always happiness. So the problem is the discontentedness, those pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. Then the second noble truth is explaining the cause of this problem. Discontentedness is caused by our own cravings, desires, attachments. The mind is longing, yearning, wanting things to be permanent, when in reality, everything is impermanent. So I'm going to explain this a few times and give you some examples. Those discontent feelings, the pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neither painful nor pleasant, is caused by the mind's cravings, desires, attachments, wants, expectations, the longing, the yearning, the pulling after the objects of its affection, because it wants things to be permanent, but yet everything in the world around you is impermanent. So if the mind has craving, desire, attachment, and it gets what it wants, it gets happy and excited. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets the painful feelings, like the anger, the sadness, the frustration, and others. This is the mind experiencing discontentedness due to its cravings, desires, attachments. And now when the mind's angry or frustrated or experiencing some other painful feeling, the mind will typically push this away. This is called aversion, where you will push the situation away or you'll push the person away. The mind's lack of wisdom of what's really causing the discontentedness, it perceives the real cause of this problem to be this person in your life. So you might have been pushing people away out of your life, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. Or you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. This is like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. But we're human beings. We don't need to growl and roar and fear others into doing things our way. But that's what the mind will do when it's in the unenlightened state and lacking this wisdom. It will perceive the problem as this person isn't doing what I want. And if I yell and holler and be harsh and bitter with them, they'll do what I want, and therefore I'll get what I want, right? So then the other thing that the mind will do is it'll put its expectations on people and try to control them and get them to do things your way. And if the mind is doing this, you're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just the mind misunderstanding what the real cause of the problem is. It perceives the problem to be something that's external, that this is what's causing your anger. So you will try to push that away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile to try to get those cravings fulfilled. Or you might put your expectations on someone, trying to control them to do things your way. Okay? So this is what the mind is experiencing, is that the mind is causing its own discontent feelings. It's not anything external that's causing these feelings. It's the cravings, desires, attachments. And the beauty about understanding this is that if you can understand that your mind is causing these discontent feelings, then the solution is to eliminate them by eliminating the cause. But let me first talk about some examples of the second noble truth so you can see this for yourself. If you were thinking back to that time when you were in a relationship with a brand new person, when you were in that relationship, you might have been so happy and so excited. This person is showing you affection. You're going out to the movies. You're going to dinner. You're going to different things. Maybe you're going to the park and having great conversations. Maybe you're even having sexual contact. And now as you're experiencing all this, there's all these pleasant feelings based on the condition of having this new person in your life. But then as time goes on, you get to the point where your expectations grow and you want this person to do certain things. And they can't do those things for you permanently. So you get angry at them. And they want and expect certain things from you. And you can't do those things permanently. So now the relationship becomes so discontent that you guys break up. And now you might be really discontent. You might be angry or frustrated. You might be lonely or bored. You might be missing this person or something like this. And this is because the mind is holding on, craving permanence. It's not because of the love. It's not that the love is causing these feelings, because love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. That doesn't cause painful feelings. What's causing the painful feelings is the mind longing, yearning, craving for this relationship to be permanent. The same thing is true when grandma or grandpa die, or mom or dad, or brothers or sisters, or someone else. When they're alive, the mind's getting what you want, so you're happy. But when they die, the mind is experiencing this impermanence that it doesn't understand. It doesn't have the wisdom of the universal truth of impermanence. It's craving and longing, yearning, it's wanting grandma and grandpa to be permanent. So now when you're meeting with this impermanence, the mind doesn't like that. So while we say that the mind craves permanence, another way to say that is that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. So when you go to a wedding, you might experience this, or people around you might be experiencing this. Brother or sister is getting married, and now maybe you feel emotional at that situation because they're going away in life with somebody else. My goodness, that's my brother. That's my sister. That's my cousin. That's my friend. How could they be going off into the world with someone else? They're mine, mine, mine. The mind's trying to hold on to them permanently. So someone might grieve at a wedding. Or if you can think back to getting dropped off at university or college, or if you can remember back to when you got dropped off at school for the very first time as a little child, or if you've seen this kind of thing, the children are holding on, and maybe the parents are too, and they feel so emotional because they don't want to let go, right? This is what's happening, is the mind's craving permanence, where in reality, everything around us is impermanent. Here's another example that doesn't involve relationships, which might make it easier for you to understand it. So think about a brand new car that maybe you've been saving up for a long time for this brand new car, and now you purchase this car and you're driving it off the parking lot of the dealer, and you're very proud of this car because it's the perfect car. You've been saving for it for a long time. People are seeing you drive down the street and they're like, look at her. She's so successful. Or, look at him. He's so successful. Wow, he's really got his life together. And now you park your car at the store. You go inside and you come out and you see a scratch on your car. And maybe now you get upset. You get frustrated. You get agitated or annoyed because this is your favorite car you've been saving for such a long time and the car's scratched. Well, it's not the scratch that's causing the painful feelings. And it's not the person who scratched the car. That's not what's causing the painful feelings. Now, it would be wonderful if nobody ever scratched our car, but that's not the world we live in. What's causing the frustration and agitation is the mind is craving permanence, that the mind wants this car to look permanently beautiful. And now when you're confronted with this impermanence of the scratch, the mind doesn't understand this, doesn't understand the universal truth of impermanence. And again, we aspire to walk through parking lots without scratching people's car. But this car is impermanent. It's going to get scratches. The paint's going to fade. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn and things like this. And as long as your mind's craving permanence of this car, now when you're experiencing impermanence, you're not going to like that, and the mind's going to experience these discontent feelings. So these are a few examples that I can share with you. But now what I'd like to do is invite you to reflect on this so you can independently verify it for yourself. Because so far I've been helping you learn intellectually. But now start reflecting on it more and more, where you can look at your own situations. Maybe you were angry this morning or yesterday or last week. Maybe you were frustrated or annoyed. And at that time, you might have been trying to blame somebody else, because that's what the unenlightened mind typically does, is it blames other people for the feelings that you're experiencing. But now with these fresh eyes and this new wisdom, look at the same situation. What was it that your mind wanted? What were you longing and yearning for? And if you would have got it, you would have been so happy. But because you didn't get what you wanted, the mind experienced anger or sadness or frustration or some other discontent feeling. You should be able to see this for yourself, that the mind was expecting something and wanting something. And when you didn't get it, you got angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. And if you're having trouble seeing that, let me know, and I will help you to be able to see how your mind is craving permanence in that situation. Because you can describe the situation to me, and then I can help you to see where your cravings, desires, attachments are. Because you can actually get liberated from these feelings. What I'm explaining to you is that your mind is causing your own discontent feelings, that the mind itself is causing this. This is why when you look at the sun and you get so happy, but then when you see that it's raining, you get sad or frustrated perhaps. If you're attached to the weather and wanting it to be sunny all the time, you can see that there was no person involved here. It was just you looking at the sun. So you can see that it's not your mom and your dad and your brothers and your sisters and your life partner and your children that are causing the mind to be discontent. It's the mind wanting things to be a certain way permanently. And you can actually come to terms with this and be able to see this truth for yourself. Now, I know that you've probably been in conversations where you've been adamantly convinced that someone else is making you angry or frustrated or agitated or annoyed. You might have been arguing, explaining to this person that they had to stop doing what they were doing, or else you were going to continue to get angry. And you might have been adamantly convinced that they were causing your anger and arguing and being bitter and harsh and hostile perhaps with them. But you can look at each one of these situations and see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And the beauty about seeing that is that when you can see that your mind is causing these feelings, then you understand that you can eliminate them. You don't have to go out into the world and teach other people to do things your way. And you can't do that anyway, because there's 8 billion people in the world, and you can't train 8 billion people to do things your way. But you can train your own mind. You can train your mind to eliminate the cause. If you know that the cause is craving, desire, attachment, and that's what's causing these discontent feelings, then you can actually eliminate it by eliminating the cause. And that's where the third noble truth is coming in. That if you can see that the cause of these discontent feelings is craving, desire, attachment, then the elimination of discontentedness is possible by eliminating cravings, desires, attachments. That's how you eliminate your discontentedness, is you train the mind to no longer long and yearn and chase and chase and chase and chase and chase. There's this middle way where you can gradually work towards goals, objectives, or interests without longing, yearning, and cravings. And the way that you accomplish that is described in the fourth noble truth, that the path to eliminating discontentedness is the Eightfold Path. That's the complete perfect plan that's going to help you to understand how to train your mind to be able to get to enlightenment. And this is what I'm going to teach next Sunday. I'm going to walk through step by step every single factor of the Eightfold Path using the original words of the Buddha so that you can see what did he teach and how to apply it in your own day-to-day life. And we're going to do it in the same way, where you can learn, you can reflect, and you can practice in order to train your mind. What we're talking about today is called right view. It's the first step of the Eightfold Path. What right view is to have the right view about what's causing your discontent feelings. The right view is that your mind is causing this itself. It's the craving, desires, attachments, the longing, the yearning. That's what's causing the discontent feelings. Wrong view would be to blame other people. If you're blaming other people for the feelings and emotions that you're having, that would be wrong view. So right view would be to accept accountability and responsibility for your own feelings, and now you skillfully work with that to be able to eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing it. And that's where the Eightfold Path is going to help you to be able to do that. So before I move on, and before I even get to what I was going to address with Ted's question, let me just back up and see if you guys have any questions about the Four Noble Truths, because it's important that you understand this. This is where you have a really helpful breakthrough to understanding what's causing these feelings. So it looks like Yihang has a question, and there might be some others. So go ahead, Yihang.
Thank you, Teacher David. I was thinking about the second noble truth. While we can see people mind might get discontent when there is impermanence. But isn't there also sometimes the mind prefers impermanence? Like sometimes when people are having repeat work, and then after a long time, their minds start losing concentration and they start like not performing that well. But instead, in some creative situation, some people might perform better. I feel, isn't that a sort of seeking for impermanence?
Yeah, what they're craving there is they're craving permanent change, right? They want things to be constantly changing. They're wanting things to be a certain way. So the mind is still craving, it's longing, it's yearning, it's wanting things to be a certain way. So in this situation, it's still described in the second noble truth that the mind is still craving this permanent change where they're not content in the job that they're doing. They have to maybe keep changing and changing and changing and changing. And that is stimulating for them, and they're craving that permanent change.
Okay, then in that situation, would you recommend the person to kind of train their mind to be in a repetitive situation and try to get concentrate into it?
There's many different trainings that an individual would need. They need to start with the Eightfold Path. That's where they would start. But then there's other things beyond that, that the more that we understand the person's mind and what they're truly craving, then you can go in and specifically target individual cravings. This is what we're going to talk about in chapter 13. When we get to chapter 13, we're going to talk about how to identify your cravings and almost go in and surgically remove them. But here at the beginning of the program, we're talking about the foundational teachings to really kind of generally train the mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. But then later, we're going to talk about how to surgically remove them from the mind.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Looks like Ted or Kristen maybe have another question.
I think we both elaborate on this. David, at 6:30 in the morning on the weekends, I crave quietness, and there is an animal downstairs that likes to be let out and bark, my mind could just run away, and anger immediately comes up, and the dog, and how could they? Don't they know any better? Is the path that you're suggesting in all situations like that to just let it be? Or can you write speech? Can I go down and explain, like, we are still in bed at 6:30 in the morning. Do you think that you may be able to keep your dog inside or find a different arrangement? Or do I, because I feel like if I don't say anything, I just become a doormat. And I know that's an issue in and of itself, but can it be addressed in a very civil, considerate manner in a situation like that? And Kristen, do you have anything else to add to that? It's like, where's the line,
Sure.
when I step over, or do I not even consider that line and not do anything?
Okay, so two different things here. As you know, your mind is craving permanence, and that's what's causing the anger and the frustration and the agitation and the annoyance. Getting the dog to quiet down isn't going to change your discontentedness. It's eliminating your own craving, desire, attachment. And there's a lot of training that you're going to need to do, a certain amount of training to be able to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment, to be able to let go so that you no longer become discontent when you hear the dog barking. So that's the important part for you, that you're going to need to let go of this craving, desire, attachment. But then in terms of whether you can skillfully go talk with somebody about these kinds of things, sure. The Buddha doesn't tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing, because those are choices for you to make. But if you're going to go talk to your neighbor, you would like to do it with a calm mind and using right speech, right? Not only right speech, but all these others too, right intention, right speech, right action. You're not interested in going there and being bitter and harsh and hostile in the heat of the moment when your mind is actually discontent, because that's not going to produce beneficial results, right? So you're not going to solve your discontentedness by getting the animal to quiet, but there could be some things that you could potentially work out with your neighbor to help them understand what's being experienced so that you can experience more opportunity to maybe get some sleep and things like this. So that's not going to solve your discontentedness, but it can help you to maybe get some more sleep and have some times where you're not hearing this animal bark. So these are things for you to consider. Whether you go talk to your neighbor or not, totally up to you. The path to enlightenment isn't about just sitting back and just accepting what is, right? Right now, I'll explain an example to you that at my son's school, they just raised the tuition prices by 10 to 20%. And the parents are outraged because they were expecting a 5% increase. This is the annual increase that has been typical over multiple years. And when they came out with the 10 to 20% increase, parents are just really off the wall angry because of their expectation. Well, that doesn't mean that you just sit back and be like, all right, whatever. Some parents have chosen to leave the school and go somewhere else, but there's other parents who have gotten together and we're having conversations with the school to try to help them to understand the hardship that they're placing on the parents by charging this increased price and trying to figure out if there's a way for them to reduce this. So you can do those things, and you would like to do it skillfully and wisely. And that's what the Buddha's guiding you to be able to do. So he's not teaching you to be passive and just accept whatever's going on in the environment around you. But you need to understand if you take action to try to get the dog to be quiet to a certain degree, it's not going to solve your craving, desire, attachment, and your discontentedness. Does that make sense? You have to unmute yourself.
That's why Kristen went down this morning and talked to them, and I didn't. I still got a lot of work to do.
Good. See, that's skillful, right? If your mind isn't in the proper place, it's not the proper time to talk, that's best to not talk then. So that was a wise decision on your part. And meanwhile, you're working on getting rid of your craving, desire, attachment through this entire Eightfold Path. So now let me answer your question about meditation so that you understand what's going on there. So with craving, desire, attachment, what the mind's doing is it's holding on. It's wanting things to be a certain way. It's craving that permanence. So when you're doing meditation, like breathing mindfulness meditation, you're focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath, you're training the mind to let go, let go, let go, because your mind doesn't want to let go. That's the way every unenlightened mind works, that the mind is holding on to this quietness of sound, that there is no sound at 6:30 in the morning. And as soon as you experience impermanence, the mind's livid. You're really upset, right? You're angry or whatever you describe, because the mind's holding on to this craving of, I want quiet at 6:30, right? And you need to understand that you're not going to get that every single morning. It's just not possible. Because of the universal truth of impermanence, you're going to hear sounds in the environment around you. So as long as your mind is craving permanence and holding on, it will continue to experience these discontent situations, not just about the dog, but about other things. So what you're doing over a consistent long-term period with the breathing mindfulness meditation is training your mind to let go, let go, let go. And letting go doesn't mean you avoid the situation or you don't talk. It just means that you train your mind to let go of these cravings. And then not only are you doing that, that's the unwholesome quality that you're training the mind to eliminate, but you're cultivating mindfulness or awareness of mind, which we're going to talk about next week. And you're cultivating concentration to be able to be focused and concentrated. Mindfulness is this awareness of mind. So in breathing mindfulness meditation, when your mind moves off the breath, you're aware of that it's moved off the breath. That's your mindfulness. And now when you let that thought go and you bring the mind back to the breath, that's you training your mind to let go. And now when you're focused on the breath, that's you training your mind to have concentration. So it's kind of like taking your mind to the gym, that if you take your body to the gym, you're exercising with weights. And now when your friend says, hey, can you help me move my sofa? You're like, yeah, sure, no problem. I can move your sofa for you. So it's the same thing as that if you're cultivating mindfulness or awareness of mind, you're cultivating concentration and you're cultivating the ability to let go. Now in your day-to-day life, you can let go. When you notice that that anger is rising, you cut it off and let it go. But this sounds like a pretty strong craving of yours. So it's not going to let go so easily. You need to accumulate more and more and more benefits of consistently training your mind so that you get to the point where your mind can let it go. And right now, it's not able to do that because you just haven't accumulated enough benefits of cultivating mindfulness, concentration, and the ability to let go. So the goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that's the case, that your goal is to eliminate thoughts. That's not going to be possible. Even an enlightened being will have an occasional thought. But what you would like to do is more and more notice the thought sooner and sooner and cut it off and let it go easier and easier. That's what you're building up to. And that's like taking your mind to the gym. And in meditation, you're cutting off everything and anything that's coming up, where in day-to-day life, you're only cutting off the unwholesome qualities. That when you notice the anger, the frustration arising, you cut that off. You feel like you want to go downstairs and punch that dog in the face, you cut that off and let it go. You know that that's unwise, that it's going to cause harm to another being, and this harm is just going to come back to you. So you'd like to cut that off. But if you have the idea like, hey, I'd like to take my wife out to dinner today, she really helped me out by taking that conversation with the neighbor. Now it's like, hey, go do that. You don't have to cut that off. So we use breathing mindfulness meditation to train the mind to let go and cultivate this mindfulness and concentration. But then there's also generosity. You're going to need to practice generosity with the people around you in order to train your mind to let go. And this is one of the things that I suggest for you to do with your neighbor downstairs and other people in your life too. But this is going to help you resolve this problem. Is when you go to the store, buy some chocolates, buy some flowers, or buy something. Every once in a while, you're outside, you're buying yourself some fruit, buy them some fruit too, and drop it off at your neighbor's place every once in a while. This is going to help your mind to let go. Even buy this dog some dog biscuits and some dog food and go give this dog some food, not because you want something from them, not because it's going to convince the dog to not bark at 6:30 in the morning, but you would like to practice some generosity where you're training your mind to let go. Because with craving, desire, attachment in the mind will be selfish. It'll hold on to things very tightly. But when you're practicing generosity, you're living open-handedly and you're sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources without any expectation of anything in return. And this is what's going to help your mind to let go. But you need to be sure you're doing it without any expectation of anything in return, not even a simple thank you. Because if you're holding the door for somebody as they're walking in and they don't say thank you, you'll get angry, you'll get frustrated or irritated. So when you're standing there holding the door, you need to be doing it because you understand that it's enhancing the quality of your mind, and it's wise to practice generosity rather than wanting something back, like even a simple thank you. So it's breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity that's targeting craving, desire, attachment, but you wouldn't be able to just practice those two things to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments. You need to practice all these factors because, for example, with your speech, if somebody's bitter, harsh, and hostile, there's a craving in there. There's something that the mind wants, and that's why it's being bitter, harsh, and hostile. So when you restrain your mind and you pull it back like you're pulling the reins of a horse, you're training your mind in through your speech to get rid of these cravings. Or if you train your mind to tell the truth and to not lie, when we're lying, there's some underlying craving. There's something that the mind wants. And if it tells the truth, it's not going to get what it wants. So therefore, the mind will lie in order to get what it wants. So when you learn to tell the truth in all situations, this is helping your mind to eliminate your craving, your longing, your yearning. So all these factors together is what's training the mind to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. But the breathing mindfulness meditation and the generosity is really targeting it. So this is what you would like to gradually build up in your practice, is each one of these factors slowly but surely. So let me check in with you, Ted, and see if you understand now what you're doing in meditation. And if not, let me know so I can clarify it.
Absolutely. You hit it on the head, and I should have brought that question up on Wednesday, but I appreciate the information.
Yeah, no worries. I sometimes talk about it in this class anyway. This morning when I taught at the temple, I talked about meditation and generosity because you can see how it connects and why it's so important through the Four Noble Truths.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm just looking here to see if we have any other questions anywhere. I'm not seeing anything. So what I'm going to be doing next week is I'm going to walk you guys through the rest of this Eightfold Path. We did this at the very beginning of the group learning program, but we do it again here because you need a refresher. You're not going to be able to learn this just one time and be able to snap your fingers and instantly implement it. So some of you guys have already learned this. Others have joined us since I taught those classes, and you guys will maybe get to learn it for the first time. So I'm going to walk you through using the words of the Buddha, where you can understand each one of these factors. It's organized into the wisdom section, the moral conduct section, and the mental discipline section. And I'll do it in a way that you can independently verify it. And when you're integrating these teachings into your life and practicing them, that's where you're going to see the real improvement. So the way that you practice right view, because I've taught you how to learn it and I've taught you how to reflect on it to verify it. Now the way that you practice right view and integrate it into your life is that I suggest from now all the way for the rest of your life, whenever your mind's angry, frustrated, agitated, annoyed, or any of those other discontent feelings, instead of looking external to try to blame somebody else for what you're experiencing, look inward and figure out, what am I craving here? What is the mind longing, yearning for? There's something the mind wants and it's not getting it. So that's why it's experiencing this anger, sadness, or frustration. Or even you get so happy and you get so excited about something. There's some craving there that the mind's having. You can look inward and figure out what that is. Because as long as you're looking externally and blaming other people, you're practicing wrong view and you'll never solve your problem. You'll continue to experience anger and frustration the rest of your life. So what this path to enlightenment is it's a purification of the mind, where you're uprooting causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. You're evolving to becoming a better and better human being. Just like a snake or a lizard evolves to become a different species, a more evolved species, human beings can do the same thing. We don't have to experience the anger and the sadness and the frustration and all these other discontent feelings. We can evolve beyond that, but you're going to need the wisdom of how to do that. And that's what the Buddha is teaching you. So essentially what the path to enlightenment is not only this purification of the mind, but it's to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is inside your own mind. It's not external. And the more that you come to terms with this and you're able to see this, then you can actually experience a real solution. But as if we continue to blame other people for what we experience and the emotions and the feelings that are going through your mind, then you'll never solve this problem. And you'll just be angry and frustrated and irritated the rest of your life. And who's interested in that, right? Continuing to be stressed and having anxiety and guilt and shame and fear. That's not something that you need to experience. You can opt out of this. You can escape out of this. And it's the Eightfold Path that's going to guide you in how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to end class here by just thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn the teachings of the Buddha. Thank you for your questions. Remember, you can get this book by downloading it from our website, by taking it and go print it. You can get it on Amazon by ordering it, or you can get a printed version here at our temple in Chiang Mai. You would like to be gradually reading the book, slowly but surely, making your way through the book. And then you can attend these classes on Sunday and Wednesday if you like. And if you can attend the live classes that are at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Thai time, they're all recorded. So you can watch it on YouTube or Facebook. You can listen to it on our podcast. All of this is available to you, even personal guidance. You can go to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. You can schedule an appointment with me and we can spend time and I will help you to understand how to relate these teachings to your day-to-day life. And it's all available at no cost, even the personal guidance. So again, thank you all for joining. If you would like to join on Wednesday, I'm going to be starting a 4-part series of Buddhist chanting and teaching you guys how to do chanting and meditation as well, and then opening up to any and all questions that you guys might have each Wednesday. So thank you again, and perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee ka. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.